שלום לכם וברוכים הבאים לשיחה נוספת של PMI. אני אילנית פרימן, מזכ"לית העמותה, ובשיחה הזאת אני רוצה לראיין את דילן גורדון, שמגיע אלינו כל הדרך מפילדלפיה. Hi Dylan, how are you?
Hey, doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes. Well, Dylan, you're a product manager on the innovation team with 7 years of experience, and you took an app which is called KickOff from the alpha state to where it is now.
Yeah, that is correct.
Can you tell us what this app is meant to do? What problem does it solve?
Yeah, sure. So let me walk you through exactly that. I'm going to share my screen.
Perfect.
And hopefully you can see my screen right now.
I can, yes.
Awesome. So one of the problems that Kickoff solves is this idea that there's really this costly problem in the working world. Many of you are probably familiar with some of these statistics, but we know generally speaking that a large percentage of projects simply miss their delivery date. The same goes with budget targets and even kind of meeting organizational goals, right? 31% of projects fail to do so. And these three statistics culminate into an even larger, scarier one, I would say, which is to say that $1 million is wasted almost 20 seconds globally due to some level of ineffective project management.
Can you repeat that number again, please? This is a horrific number.
Yeah, it's $1 million that's wasted almost 20 seconds globally due to some level of ineffective project management.
Every day?
Yeah, every day.
$1 million every 20 seconds is lost every day.
Yeah, absolutely. The reality is there's multiple variables at play here, and Kickoff actually solves for one of them. One of these kind of variables affecting this larger number is the idea that inexperienced project managers and inexperienced project team members are really contributing to a large majority of projects that are run in the corporate world. And so what I mean by this is that if we look at how projects are managed in the corporate world, we kind of have two sides of the coin. We have formal project managers on one side, and many of you are probably formal project managers yourself. You may have a PMP, a CAPM. You may have years of project management experience and awesome educational resources at your disposal for upskilling and improvement, like podcasts, webinars, conferences, training, certifications. And so your preparation to manage projects is really high. But the reality is that these formal project managers make up the minority of people managing projects in the workplace. And that's really because on the other side of the coin, you have inexperienced project managers or project team members that are contributing at a much greater clip. And so we can think of these people as maybe a marketing manager or a product manager or a systems engineer or a consultant, people who are doing project-based work every single day, but whose titles aren't project manager or who don't have PMPs or CAPMs. And so their years of experience managing projects it probably pales into comparison to that of a formal project manager. And the educational resources available to these people are much thinner and much smaller in nature. So maybe there's a blog, maybe there's a one-off article, but by and large, is not really a cohesive experience for upskilling and improving oneself. And so the conundrum here, the massive question is, for people who have the least amount of experience managing projects, but who are managing the most projects in the workplace, why is their preparation so low, and how can we improve that so that these projects are managed better and so we can avoid those statistics that we saw in the earlier slide?
So Dylan, would you say that this app is designed to help less experienced people?
Yeah, 100%. So I think it goes two ways. One is you have less experienced people actually acting as project managers, right? So it really helps them get up to speed and empower his or her team to have forward momentum on day one. But it also helps project team members who are kind of newer to being part of project teams and don't necessarily understand the terminology and the language and the key processes that maybe the formal project manager is asking of those people to understand. And so oftentimes when you have kind of a formal project manager leading a project, but the project team members are newer in nature, oftentimes it's harder to communicate because there's just a gap in knowledge, and kickoff really helps everybody get on the same page, really helps level the playing field so everybody has the same knowledge and can really kind of have that forward momentum on day one.
So let's try and understand how Kickoff does that.
So Kickoff is a totally free digital learning tool that helps these newer project managers and team members launch successful projects from start to finish. And the entire course takes just 45 minutes. So it's a very small investment with a really high upside, high ceiling. And so Kickoff allows anybody to get smarter with just the foundational knowledge that's critical for project success. So this isn't a capstone course. This isn't a course heavy on jargon. This is really rooted in the basic fundamental information that someone needs to know to move a project forward. Next, Kickoff allows users to put their learnings into practice immediately so they can move their project forward. Oftentimes, when we read blogs or articles or we take classes, after we're done, we're like, that's awesome, I learned all this stuff, but like, what do I do next? Or how do I apply this? And what Kickoff does is it offers actionable templates, a repository of key terms, and good questions to ask at each point of the project journey and to different stakeholders when necessary, so that you know exactly what you have to do once you're done with the application.
Can we see a demo of this?
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you can see what is Kickoff. Right now, what you're looking at is you are looking at the agile version of Kickoff. So we offer Kickoff in both waterfall and agile learning paths that are tailored to what your project needs are. So on the left-hand side, you have our course menu. It's divided into modules. So getting it up and running, getting the work done, and release to operations are considered modules. And then under each module are a series of lessons or topics. So set the vision and get aligned, build your team, and set up your team room are examples of lessons that roll up to comprise the greater module, getting it up and running. Now, each lesson kind of has the same structure, which is nice because it provides a very cohesive experience. And I'm going to walk you through a lesson and kind of point out some of the nice features of that lesson. So here, we're on the first lesson of the agile version. It's set the vision and get aligned. And you'll notice that there's 4 tabs that kind of take you through the lesson: the goal, things to keep in mind, ways to get it done, and the activity, which I'll talk about in some greater detail. Now, the one thing I want to mention on the goal page, outside of it tells you what you're going to learn the lesson and what to look out for, is that we surface key terms in line with the content. So as you walk through the content in real time, we understand that if you're on the more inexperienced side, you may not understand or know the definition of a stakeholder. And we don't want you to have to look here and there for that definition. We want to surface that definition right where you are when you need it. And so you'll see key terms throughout, the entire course, all of the lessons. Now, as we move to things to keep in mind, what I want to point out are these good questions to ask. So I mentioned earlier.
Who do you ask? Just a second. Who do you ask? These are good questions, but who do you ask them?
Yeah, well, so in this case, these are questions to ask your sponsor, this question, yourself, and then the team. And then they vary by lesson. So depending where you are in your project journey, you might not have any questions for your sponsor necessarily, but you might have more questions for your team. And so what's really nice about this is that it breaks down what questions you should have at each interval of your project and to whom it makes the most sense to ask that question. And so if I can offer a personal anecdote, this happens to be one of my favorite features because, I've been in so many meetings and I've left those meetings thinking that I have all the answers that I need to move a project forward. And then 2 hours later, I realize I don't. And then it's nearly impossible to get all those people back in the same room. And so this acts as a really great gut check, a really great way to kind of pull out your phone and say, let me just make sure I ask these questions now because it might be hard to get those answers later on.
I do have a question for you, Dylan. I see that there's only one question to ask in each section. So is this the most important question, or is this kind of a topic that breaks down to further questions?
Yeah, so that's a good question in itself. So there happens to be one question per kind of stakeholder in this section. In other lessons, there could be 3 or 4 questions. So to answer the second part of your question, this is basically the most important thing to ask. And then the other lessons, when there are multiple questions to ask an individual or a team or yourself, when there's multiple options, those 3 things or those 2 things we view as very pressing, and that should always be asked. When we move on, we have the ways to get it done tab. And what I want to point out here is that this is the first opportunity to download an actionable template where a template exists. So most of the lessons have templates that are professionally designed with great instructions, and they really allow users to leave kickoff with something that they can use right away. And so you can click on download template and it will download to your browser of choice. I happen to use Chrome, and then you can use it for your own personal use. You can distribute it with your colleagues, your project team members, so everybody's working off the same document. When we move on to the activity, I won't go through the entire activity, but I will say that many of the lessons in both the waterfall and agile version of kickoff have activities which are kind of fun, interactive mediums to complement the physical content. And so what's really nice about the activities in kickoff is that they are central to the entire course. So what I mean by that is that all of the content and all of the activities in kickoff revolve around a central project, making it for a really cohesive experience. So instead of there being a bunch of siloed examples that are hard to kind of marry up and join, kickoff really builds on itself because it uses the same project in all of the activities. So for the agile version of kickoff, the activity is about creating the software or technology to power Growbot, which is kind of a garden box that can monitor and correct the temperature, water, and sun levels of the garden box. And a user can do this on their phone. And so for the agile side, the activity in the project is about creating the software to power Growbot. And on the waterfall version, the project is about creating the physical garden box Growbot. And so the 2 play off of each other really nicely. And it's great that all the content revolves around the same central theme. So I won't go through the entire activity, but I do kind of want to show you what this one looks like. So here, this one is creating the stakeholder vision document. And so what you do is you basically drag and drop the correct statement that meets the appropriate scope statement into the empty field below. So it's a drag and drop exercise. And when you get the correct answer, you'll get positive feedback. When you get the incorrect answer, you'll get feedback that, allows you to think differently to get the correct answer. And so you'll basically build a stakeholder vision document all the way through. And at the end, you'll complete that physical lesson, and you'll notice that the little star fills in. It's already filled in because I've completed this, but you'll be that much closer to completing the actual course, and you'll be that much closer to earning your badge, which you can share via social media. So that's kind of how all the lessons work. Really quickly, I do want to share with you kind of the Hamburger Menu, which in large part acts as kind of a master repository of everything I just mentioned. So if you can recall, we surfaced the key terms in line with the content, and here's your glossary of all those key terms. So if you want to quiz yourself, or if you want to see something in aggregate, kind of here's your place to do so. You'll notice that kickoff has a very kind of colloquial, informal, aesthetically fun feel. I cannot take credit for this. I have no artistic ability myself, but we have an awesome designer that hand drew, all of these images and make them really awesome.
This is why people work together and not alone. This is one lesson that all project managers should learn.
That is totally true. And knowing where your weaknesses are, finding other people who can have strengths in those areas. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So this is a repository or a compilation of all the templates. So if you wanted to come back to kickoff 2 weeks after you took you finished the course and you said, I want to download all the templates right now, here's your place to do so. You can click the download button here. It'll download to your local browser of choice, and then you can use them, distribute them across your team members, whatever you like. And then for the questions to ask, again, here's kind of a repository of all the questions and when you want to ask them. And again, my favorite use case for this is just, taking out a phone in a meeting at the very end, because we don't want phones in meetings, but just to make sure that we're asking the right questions, then we're getting the most out of the people in the room to move our projects forward.
Okay, great. So is there anything else you want to show us on the screen?
The only thing I want to share is right now we're in the agile version of kickoff, right? And I do realize that, you might have a project that you're working on today that kind of has a more agile feel to it, or at least the needs, kind of make you want to go that route. But you might have a project tomorrow that you're working on where, you need all the requirements set in stone. It's very structured, and you might say a waterfall approach might be more suitable for this project. And so if you'd like to switch between the two different courses, Agile and Waterfall, you can simply go to the footer here and click this button. And now you're on the Waterfall side of kickoff. And so you can go back and forth based on what your project needs are, and they'll evolve over time, right? Every project is a little bit different, requires something new. So you can go back and forth and really, A, test your understanding, but B, really find that approach that makes the most sense for your project at that current time.
I see. So Dylan, if I understand well, this app, which is called KickOff, basically helps unexperienced project managers learn all the terms that they need to know in order to communicate better with the people they work with. It helps them plan the project.
Correct, yeah.
So it helps them plan the project and know what questions to ask, when to ask them, and who to ask them. And they can, and whoever uses the app can kind of test themselves, see that they understand what is the best way to run their projects.
Yeah,
is that a good summary?
Yeah, that's definitely correct. I think and just to add to that, kickoff is really intended to help informal project managers or inexperienced project managers figure out what to do at each step of their project journey. And then to your point, be able to either communicate that better because now they're more knowledgeable having gone through kickoff, or even distribute kickoff to their project team members so they can run through the course too. And so everybody can have that same alignment and foundational understanding, because when that happens, when people are aligned in process and terminology, in structure, they can just move faster, they can move more efficiently, and hopefully we can eradicate that $1 million statistic that plagues everybody, or at least try to get closer to it.
Tell me something. When is the best time to use kickoff? Is it before the project starts, or while it's still in process? Is it okay to use the app?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's okay to use it whenever. My personal recommendation is to use it before a project starts, because if you can set that foundation and that communal understanding before the project kicks off, pun intended, then everything becomes more efficient. Surely, this happens all the time where you get to a part of a project, maybe you're 4 weeks in, and then you realize that the team isn't on the same page, and then you have to go backwards to move forwards. But the hope is that if you kind of use kickoff at the very beginning or right before the project starts, you can avoid having to go back to go forward, right? You can kind of build that foundation right off the start, and then move forward swiftly.
And does kickoff know how to adjust itself to each individual project?
So not right now. So the content is static, meaning that the waterfall course has the same content no matter what kind of project you're working on. However, I have explored some sort of dynamic content around what you're saying. So who knows in the future where that might be headed.
I see. And it's completely free at the moment.
Yeah, so it's completely free. Really, to access it, all you have to do is go to perfectkickoff.com. You'll hit the button that says get started. It's free. So pretty self-explanatory. And then if you already have existing PMI account credentials, you'll simply log in with those existing credentials. And if you don't, you'll just create a PMI account, which is also totally free to create as well. And then it'll log you into the application thereafter.
I see. Great. Any other thing you would like to add before we round this up?
I don't really. I mean, this has been a great opportunity. I'm always super excited and pleased to talk with people about Kickoff and learn about their own personal challenges or how they kind of get team members up to speed. On the inexperienced side, how they get themselves up to speed. So, I'm always open to feedback. Should you have any, feel free to email me. My email's, Dylan.Gordon@pmi.org. So feedback is always welcome. And I would love to know how you use it for yourself and really across project teams, or, how colleagues might use it if you distribute it to them as well.
How new is the app?
So we've been live in market probably at the end of Q3 of 2020. So it went through an alpha and the beta, taking in tons of feedback from customers and prospects, through surveys and live observation and moderated and unmoderated testing. So it's been a very iterative process, designing and developing the application based on the feedback. And so we moved from alpha to beta to kind of a end of Q3 of 2020 launch. And now it is live in market. And of course, we're still consuming tons of feedback to improve it. But now it's really accessible to everybody to upskill and benefit from.
Okay, so what can I say? I can say thank you very much for being part of this, what seems to be a very important app that is meant to help a lot of people, and hopefully that we can all help reduce the 1 million statistics to more than 20 seconds, or kind of eliminate it altogether. Who knows?
Yeah, let's just stop having nightmares about it. That'll be another goal.
Good luck on that one.
Yes,
so,
much needed.
Thank you very much, Dylan, for this interview. Let me just add a few more words in Hebrew. ואתם שצפיתם ברעיון הזה, אני מקווה שהפקתם תועלת רבה, ותמליצו לכל מי שאתם מכירים שנמצא בתחילת הדרך ויכול להיעזר באפליקציה הזאת, לעשות בה שימוש ולהתקדם. זה רק יכול לקדם את כולנו ולעזור. אז תודה רבה לכם שצפיתם, ולהתראות ברעיון הבא.